Hey guys, this is Argent with, I believe it's episode 7 of the Patrician podcast. So we wanted to do something a bit lighter today, amidst the doom and gloom, the apocalyptic refugee crisis, and the apocalyptic fumes of China's economy strong. So today we're going to just kind of talk about what kind of pushed us rightward, what made us stop being normies. Well, I'm just joking, but like what kind of events in life kind of made you edgier, or just made you more conservative, or made you more kind of right wing? Because I kind of find when it comes to right wing ideas, something is often the impetus. Some people do come from conservative families, particularly if they're in the South or they come from a very religious family. But because the culture is so overwhelmingly left wing, generally speaking, there has to be some sort of impetus that pushes you rightward. I mean, there's a lot of things that can cause this. Islam is a big one for a lot of people. I think 9/11 pushed a lot of people rightward. I think ISIS has pushed a lot of people rightward. Just general problems from mass immigration. If you're in university, it can be feminism. A lot of MRAs come out of bad divorce settlements or alimony or false rape accusations or something. So I just figured today we just have a bit of fun. And oh, I see we have a couple viewers. Okay, so if any of the viewers want to join in at some point and kind of tell your story a bit, this is a bit more open forum and a bit more free form than some of the other topics. So Monad and Papist, if you guys would just like to introduce yourself, I'm just going to post this on my Facebook page.
Sure, I'm a raging papist. I do sort of alt-right reactionary videos, videos on Catholic theology, and videos on gaming in general. So video games, tabletop, stuff like that.
So pretty similar to what I do, in other words.
Yeah.
Monad, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I don't have a. I'm planning to do some videos actually, but I haven't gotten started yet, and I've just kind of joined this kind of community. I've been following Millennial Woes for a while, and yeah, that's kind of. I can tell some more about myself later, how I got to where I am. But should I do that now or?
Sorry, what? Sorry, just repeat that.
Should I tell you like my background story, how I?
Yeah, sure. Sure. You can go, and then Raging Papist can go, and then I'll probably go. I'm just messaging a couple people.
Sure.
To let them know it's on.
Okay. I actually, I think I kind of started being interested in politics when I was like 15, 16, and I joined a moderate youth organization that was it, but it wasn't like the moderates are the kind of considered the most right wing in Sweden.
They're a conservative party. They're kind of like the Tories or the Republicans.
Yeah, they call themselves like liberal conservative or something like that. It's like what their ideology.
Right, and for those of you who may not be aware, a liberal conservative is generally speaking what they call conservative parties in Europe. Liberal in Europe tends to mean center-right. In North America and in Anglo countries, it generally means left-wing. So liberal conservatism is kind of a combination of kind of some conservative ideas and some kind of classical liberal ideas on the free market and individual rights and that kind of thing. Would you say that's accurate, Monad?
Yeah, that's accurate. But the kind of youth organization was more like libertarian. So many of the people there were libertarian, and I was libertarian. That's kind of where the first ideology I kind of it spoke to me because it was so like a few premises, and you kind of logically deduct the kind of system you're going to have. I believe in the like night watcher state. People know what that is.
Now, did you read? Sorry, I'm just going to do a bit of interview while we're doing this. Did you read Ayn Rand at all?
No, yeah, I was aware of Ayn Rand, but she was never. I thought her like philosophy was like she also like had not only political philosophy, but her ethics, like being a total egotistical, and I thought this was just stupid, and also her metaphysics didn't speak to me at all. She shouldn't be in those areas, and now that I've seen her in like interviews, she's actually seems like a psychopath to me.
Right, I
Yeah.
guess. Oh, sorry. Just why I bring her up is because I know for me, she is like, say what you will, she is very anti-egalitarian and takes kind of a very heroic view of human nature. So I just bring her up because a lot of people like her. But yeah, just saying, a lot of people who kind of move rightward start out as libertarians. Would you say it's just kind of like the kind of a first step because it's not completely outside of the normal social order, but it's very much kind of different?
Yeah, not really for me actually. I went more to the left later in the because this like night portrait state with just the police and the justice system and the military and like no social safety net, and I kind of like the welfare state, at least without the immigrants, like because we can't sustain that now. It's going to collapse, I think.
Yeah, didn't it function pretty well in the Nordic countries before mass?
Yeah, it was pretty good, I think. But yeah, also the Social Democrats were influenced by the like cultural Marxism, at least with Olof Palme that got shot, and he was pretty bad. I think he wanted to get like the women out to work and like subsidize daycare and hire the taxes, and so that it's hard to like be at home, have the mother be at home with the kids, for example.
Right.
And stuff like that. That left, and that's a thing I kind of always despised with the left, that they was kind of always wanted to be in people's personal life and kind of push them in different directions and stuff like that.
That's certainly true.
Yeah, and later I like actually I voted for the Pirate Party in two elections because I didn't like any of the like establishment parties, and I'm actually for kind of free information. But yeah, that's not really relevant because I guess with 9/11 and all the Muslims, I kind of started reading about Islam, and I discovered that it was not a religion of peace.
So you were kind of the liberal Sorry, I don't want to dox you or anything, but roughly, could you give us an estimate of how old you are? I'm just trying to get a timeline.
Yeah, and then it's not a problem. I'm 33. 33.
Okay, you're 30. Okay, so
yeah.
You were a member of the youth group of the Moderate Party before 9/11?
Yeah, yeah. I had stopped paying to be a member at 9/11. I think it was just a short phase actually that in the youth.
Okay, so you would say that was kind of a formative event for you.
Yeah,
that 9/11 really kind of changed your outlook.
Yeah, at least at immigration, but I wasn't like totally anti-immigration. Though, what really pushed me rightwards was when I started to think about like long term how we should have make a good society, and then we have to think about like eugenics, like incentivize people that are intelligent to get more children, and like I don't like, I'm pretty libertarian still, like socially I don't like to be in people's personal life, but when it comes to getting kids, that's kind of, we live in a interconnected world, so we have to think about that. We have to think about how we create a better future. And I knew that, I learned that like immigrants had lower IQ, and I also started becoming aware of that people naturally tend to be with their own group. So you would have the. I thought it would be good to have like a white society that kind of identifies with itself. Uh, does it come across what I mean?
Now, sorry, just to clarify, when you say eugenics, you mean, I think it's what's called positive eugenics, where we don't like sterilize disabled people. You encourage people who are intelligent or good citizens or people of like good moral character to have more children.
Yeah, and disincentivize like lower intelligence people, and actually people that are retarded or like that that have that low an IQ, and if they kind of go around and sleep with people and get kids, that's I actually think you have to sterilize them. But that's like on the I actually lived in a building before where there was she must have been kind of retarded, the mother, and she had like 5 children, and they all kind of was mentally challenged. So
Now, sorry, I just had another question about immigration. I've heard good things about the Assyrians in Sweden.
good things.
Yeah,
They are really appreciative that they have come here, I think. And I know a friend of mine. I knew an Assyrian when I was studying in the university, and a friend of mine were at his family, and that father had said something like about. We had a minister, I think, a black woman that was she the minister of and something regarding immigration or something like that, who was black, and he said that the Swedes shouldn't like let in other people in the government because they're going to take over, and they also.
Don't a lot of Assyrians vote for like the Swedish Democrats?
Yeah, and the leader for the Swedish Democrats had a speech, and in Södertälje, a town that is there are lots of Assyrians, and he said that he would consider taking in more Assyrian immigrants if we stop taking in Muslims.
Well, I mean, I personally am okay with taking in Levantine Christians. A, they're not Muslims, so I think they'd assimilate better culturally because they're Christian. And B, I kind of consider that Levantines are close enough genetically. They're basically just a Mediterranean people. Also, they tend to be pretty well educated. Middle Eastern Christians I know do very well in Latin America. Oh, sorry. So, just any thoughts about that? Like, if there was no, if it, would you like, let's say, would you let them stay, for instance?
Yeah, it is kind of hard problem because, it's like one of the groups that I would consider saying, and I don't really have a problem with it. Like small minority of immigrants, it's just. This is just crazy what is going on right now. We have to like, I don't know. We have to like start first send back the people that have came now with the so-called refugee crisis, I think, and maybe after that kind of do something like everybody that came after the year 2000 or something has to go back, I think. So I think we have to do that, something like that. I don't know how, but I guess it.
So you might consider letting them stay if they were like the only minority.
Yeah, and I don't mind like small minorities, but Muslim minorities are really problematic, I
Well,
think.
because even if they're a small group, they demand a bunch of stuff. Like I know in Canada, even when they're a small number, they demand basically that like you remove anything they find offensive, you remove pork, you remove like Any kind
Yeah, but I actually one other group that they are actually they are Shia Muslims, I guess. The Persians they seem to integrate much better, and I've known and talked with Persian people, and they seem there's a big difference between them and Arabs. But yeah, it's still
yeah, that makes.
problematic with yeah.
So are you part of the Swedish Democrats now?
No, no. I think actually they are kind of too cocked in a way too, but they are very good to like pushing the
They're just
Overton
civic
window.
nationalists, aren't they? Really?
What did you say?
They're just civic nationalists, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they kind of were from the beginning. They were more like ethno-nationalist, but they kind of started to the
turned
leader
themselves
now
out.
started to like kicking out everyone who had said anything that could be like interpreted as Nazi and stuff like that, and they started to they changed their definition of Swedishness to have an open Swedishness, but they demand that they kind of demand that immigrants will culture assimilate.
Now, I don't
So,
mean to shill, but I kind of feel in a lot of cases, like with the National Front and the Swedish Democrats, they have to walk a very fine line, because if they can get shut down really easily if they say anything by the media and the government, etc.
No freedom of speech at all.
No, like I kind of feel like for instance, Nigel Farage is actually substantially more right wing than he comes across. He just has to be very careful that he doesn't get shut down.
yeah,
but you
that
can't
makes
put too
sense,
much
yeah.
stock in that, though. That's the thing. You're putting stock in a theory. Like, you don't know.
yeah.
No,
I'm
but
kind
I mean, like, what else are you gonna do? I mean,
I suppose.
they're at least have some good ideas versus like the Tories that have none.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know that the Swedish Democrats cut their ties with the Swedish Democrat youth?
Really, that's weird.
Yeah, they elected the two nationalists, some girl, some woman that they considered too nationalistic. They kind of try to profile themselves like a social conservative party,
Right.
and the youth wing was much more a kind of radical nationalist, I guess. And I actually hope that I know that they have had conversations with people that have been kicked out of the Swedish Democrats, and I hope that maybe they will make a new party or something. But I think there's a lot of people in the Swedish Democrats that are wants to go further on the nationalist route, like and anti-immigration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raging Papist, would you maybe like to go now, and then we'll get Jack to go, or no? Sorry, no, we'll get Monsieur to go after that.
Sure. I come from a pretty religious family, so naturally we've always been very much inclined towards the right, at least yeah, in my youth and all the way up through now. I first started, in high school. I was pretty much your average, your typical Republican. So in the States, the Republican Party, there's only two parties. You have the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and the Republican is essentially the umbrella party for all things quote unquote conservative. So through most of my youth, I was pretty gung-ho Republican, as much as you can be as a teenager. But when I got to college, I started to become a bit more politically aware, start having a bit more of an understanding on the nature of politics. And how political science is sort of the study of human political behavior. Like how will they vote? Why will they vote? How do you know they'll come out and such? And that was when I started really poking holes in the Republican Party as a whole to start seeing the flaws with the conservative, or what becomes the conservative in the future. And but the whole time I never really saw an issue really because I didn't see the danger. 9/11 had already happened. Everybody was pretty much in the United States pretty gung ho. 9/11, hoorah, USA, and all that. But the thing for me that started to turn me edgy and start pushing me towards the alt-right and started to say that the Republican Party and conservatism in America, at least as it stands, will cease to exist in the near future, was when Romney actually failed to beat Obama in Obama's second election.
When Obama just did an absolutely horrific job running the country.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, obviously, I knew that when Obama ran the first time, it was post-Bush, and he was up against McCain, who ran a fantastically atrocious campaign.
McCain is literally like, when I think of loser, that's the face that comes to mind.
Oh, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't trust his conservatism at all, and he's the he was a big part of my state's history. So. I do not like him.
He just has no charisma. He just looks like a loser. He looks like if the New World Order was going to put up someone like as a fake candidate in an election, they'd pick someone like John McCain.
Right. Well, he's just so weak. But you couple the atrocious campaign that he put forward, mixed with the historic vote, because people came out that hadn't voted in decades, to be able to vote for Obama to wash away the sin of racism in this country. So, Obama took the landslide election, but the thing is, the following 4 years of that were so catastrophic, just so bad. A complete reversal of the Bush doctrine. So I'm sort of feeling like the American empire is collapsing all around me here. We're just literally hampering ourselves in the Middle East. We refuse to talk tough to anybody. He goes on his apology tour across Europe, saying how sorry we are. We take our missile defenses away from Poland, who was saying, "Can we keep those missile defenses?" Like it was just the utter collapse of our foreign policy, and even socially here. Things started to really change. You started to have the rise of the SJW, noticeable. Your typical Tumblr degenerate. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, everyone has to see this, right? I mean, this is obviously a catastrophe. The economy is tanking. No one's doing anything. Foreign policy is a disaster. Okay, we will get rid of this guy now.
Also, sorry, just one other thing. I think, and this may sound like a basic bitch talking point, but I think Obama fairly obviously hates America.
Oh, absolutely. Dinesh D'Souza's documentary on him showed him to be the anti-colonialist fop stooge that he is. He's a Marxist.
Right, like I don't understand. Well, my country did it too. I still don't get it though. The whole thing about just why you would elect the leader of a country who fundamentally hates the country and wants it to do poorly just seems crazy to me.
Well, and that is, though, he was writing off the guilt that the left has in this country, because so much of liberalism, in the United States at least, is about self-guilt and self-hate. Like, we are sorry that we won the Second World War. We are sorry that we are so successful. It's time to give the world back to everybody else. So, even though NATO is relying, with the Western world was pretty much relying on the backbone of the United States to carry it, we're just going to give it back. So you guys go and do whatever you want. We will lead from behind, as they say here. Like, it was an absolute catastrophe. And now you had things like the Arab Spring. Well, what was the role of the United States? Nothing. We aren't going to do anything. Let them sort it out themselves. And then it all turned against us. So
I remember when I was listening to Mark Levin, back when I used to listen to him every day, there's a guy who called it, he's like, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I don't know what Obama's doing in Libya, but I wish he would stop. Like, what was that? Like, I had no idea what was even going on. I still don't know.
That was such a catastrophe. Why did they help the Libyan terrorists?
Literally, no one has benefited from what happened in Libya. It's just a complete disaster for all parties.
Yeah.
People take boats there to Italy.
Mike Stein called it the fastest quagmire in history. Like, it literally was a weekend and it was a quagmire. No one knew like what the hell they were doing.
Right. So for me then, those were all my feelings going into his second election, and I gotta be honest. I was not a huge fan of Romney. Romney was sort of the establishment milquetoast. Everyone can kind of get on board, can kind of like the guy, but no one's fired up for him. And I was like, okay, it doesn't matter that people are fired up. You're not going to vote for Obama, right? I mean, let's be serious here. So when he then failed, and I remember I was watching TV. I was watching a debate between Romney and Obama, and Romney had the audacity to say, I don't actually trust the Russians. I think the Russians are going to be a grave threat to the United States in the future. And everyone booed. Everyone booed, and Obama just got on the pulpit saying, "Oh, you're living in the Cold War. America has no rivals. America has forget it, And I just couldn't believe it. And then he took the election, and that was for me when I started saying, well, if Romney is the best candidate the Republican Party can put forward, and he is the symbol for all things Republican, then we need something new. Because we are dying. Conservatism is dying in the United States.
To be honest, I actually cried when Obama won re-election.
Oh my God!
It was just so traumatic, because I actually had been a liberal and I had actually supported Obama largely because I thought if he won, partially just because John McCain sucked so hard.
He really did. He did.
Partially just because I'm like, well, if Obama wins, then we can stop with white guilt, we can stop with the whole slavery thing, and we can move on to actually like things that are like more important.
Well, and that's why I think for Europeans may not know this, but yeah, when Obama took the second election, so many of us on the right were just, I can't fathom.
It was like someone died. It was
right that the country could elect him a second time. Like this is unbelievable.
Actually, I followed the campaign a little bit, and I could see why people didn't want to vote for Romney.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a similar reaction over here when in the last general election UKIP only won a single seat. But they actually lost seats in the last election.
Right. Yeah. So after that, I really started saying, well, what are the problems with the Republican Party? How do we fix conservatism? Because the problem, I think, in the United States is that the Republican Party is not really the conservative party. It's merely the Democratic Party of 20 years ago. I heard. When the SCOTUS decision, so the gay marriage decision in the United States was a big deal, and the Republican Party at the time was sort of, well, we don't believe in gay marriage, we don't think this should be happening, but there was no zeal for it. There was no, like, let's actually oppose this, because I could already see in 20 years, in 10 years, I could very easily see the Republican Party saying, well, look, we believe in the sanctity of marriage of two people. Not men and women, but two people. And then years after that, so yes, it's a slippery slope argument, but I'm just trying to illustrate that they are not conservative. Yeah.
I mean, my reaction to them was that it seemed like they were getting ready to back out of it as soon as there was like a semi-honorable way for them to like start supporting gay marriage.
Yeah, they don't want anyone to dislike them, and the problem is that the left dislikes conservatism. So you're never going to get beyond that fact.
And minorities will never vote for them.
No.
Yeah, can I add something there about gay marriage? That wasn't like I have never considered that like an important issue, and it was actually Irene, Irene's channel. I watched him for a while, and I heard he kind of laid out an argument for why you could be against gay marriage, because like it's a civilizational institution that's kind of made to procreate and live together. There's no rationale for having in such an institution in the society for two men or two women, and and it's also it's just an attack on. It's also just an attack. Yeah, that's what I have realized, that everything like this is an attack on the traditional Western morality, and that's kind of explains everything that is happening.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I just think we're kind of in the States, we're kind of going through the death throes of the Republican Party, and that's why it gladdens me when MSNBC will run a hit piece. They'll find some cuck conservative who comes out and starts saying, "Well, the alt-right is not our friend," trying to suck up to the progressive stooges, and they're all giggling. They know that he's selling himself down the river.
Yeah.
But
Now, what are your feelings on the Tea Party? Because I know, like, on one hand, it was kind of this lame libertarian thing, but on the other, it kind of seemed to be like the beginning of the awakening of white identity in America.
Absolutely. I considered myself Tea Party for a couple months, really, because it's sort of libertarian ideology. Everything in the States is done kind of differently than the reactosphere itself is different in the States than compared with Europe. That's always been my sort of basic premise, because things like white nationalism, I think, can do really well, and they can do really good for the people in Europe, but I don't think that we can do that kind of thing in the States. We can have white identity and celebrate white identity, but white nationalism purely, I don't think can work.
See, that's interesting, because I actually see it the opposite, that white nationalism is, I referred to it as, well, in Europe I see it as Europeans LARPing as Americans LARPing as Europeans.
Well, that's the state of affairs between both of them, yeah.
No, but I kind of see white nationalism as more of an American concept, because Americans are all mixed. Like, you and I are, like, mixed of a bunch of different...
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. And I wish we would have more like white identity in the whole of Europe, that people felt more like Europeans. Like Swedes don't feel that much like Europeans, and like the Poland has like some issues with the Germans and the historical stuff. We have to like leave that behind. And
here in Britain, we always consider ourselves to be separate from the continentals, the continental Europeans. So there's very little solidarity.
Interesting. I just would have assumed that you have these countries that are always, classically white. That I just assumed that it would be like, well, that would be part of your identity more over there than over here in the States.
You have to understand, though, a lot of these countries have beefs that go back thousands of, like, hundreds, sometimes.
Oh, certainly.
Intergenerational beef.
No, like, if you go
I certainly
on the
get that,
country ball pages, the Hungary ball and, like Hungary and Slovakia are always like, we're going to come for you, Magyar bastards, and we're going to take you down. It's like, no, we're going to re-annex Slovakia. It will be part of Greater Hungary once more.
Even in the United Kingdom, just in if you look at Northern Ireland, that's how divided places in Europe can be. It's just generations of religious war.
Sorry, we're not trying to shade down or anything, I'm just giving my...
No.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no,
so
Well, so I guess on the Tea Party, it's libertarian, but it's infused with a sort of fervor for the American Constitution and the American approach to government.
So American nationalism, basically.
Yeah, and I saw it as a really good thing, sort of the classic conservative principles of small government, but we're even going to be instilling that with honor, love of country, and all these things like that. I say it's a good first step. It is a good first step towards approaching the alt-right, and that's why I view the Tea Party as natural allies to conservatism in America.
Okay. Did you want to say anything else, or should whatchamacallit go, Monsieur?
Yeah. I'll just say that the moving towards edginess, the moving towards the alt-right, is it can happen, through any economic demographic, and it will occur naturally. I think the more a person steps back and really starts evaluating what is important to your civilization. Now, but it does involve a degree of education and knowledge. You have to kind of know your history. You have to know your education, your society, where you stand. But as a person gets older, I think it will naturally, I think, drift in that direction for them. I hope. I pray that that's what happens. Because
I also think if you're a white male, you kind of are almost going to be edgy by default. Because
absolutely.
there's going to be no bones thrown to you anymore. Like, literally everything set up in modern society just despises you. So, like, would you say, like, part of what made you more radical is that there was no legitimate... You didn't see any legitimate, like, normal political options anymore?
Absolutely.
Anything.
Yeah, because I turned my back on the Republican Party when I realized that they're dead in the water and they hate their own. So.
Right, so, like, if the Republicans were a more robust party, you would just support them. I guess it's kind of my implication, though a lot of it is fueled by just marginalizing everyone who has a different opinion, and so everyone has to just go to the margins then.
Yeah, and even look at the election that's coming up with what I'm guessing. I'm assuming it's going to be Trump versus Byrne.
Oh, really?
I do. That's my... If I'm reading the politics correctly, I think it's going to be Trump versus Sanders.
Yeah, I believe that too, actually.
And because I think I see Hillary's numbers are sinking, and I think the email scandal is going to actually hit her pretty hard, the way that the Benghazi scandal could not. So I think it's going to be Sanders versus Trump, and if it goes Sanders v. Trump, I think Trump takes it. I believe that's my estimation.
Now, even with Sanders, I kind of feel like his rise is almost kind of a similar phenomenon to Trump, because he's kind of radical. So I kind of feel like he also represents just a disdain for politics as usual.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
He's a populist like Trump, I think. And he isn't like a regular politician. He kind of but he he has like his want to split up the banks and his stuff like that, and I think people like that now. People are so tired of the regular politicians and the way systems are the system are right now.
Right, because I see him as a positive, because I kind of think that people are voting for him because they see fundamentally that something's not working.
With the Democratic Party, yeah.
Well, just the left. I think a lot of, and this is kind of why I have my theory, if I can just get on my soapbox for a minute, that the SJW and the Edgelord are both reactions to the crisis of postmodernity.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, the SJW takes the perspective that it failed because the baby boomers weren't actually committed to anything. Like, they still lived in their gated communities. They didn't really embrace the free love. They still kind of, in a lot of ways, particularly when they grew up, they kind of did live kind of traditional conservative lives. Like, they got married, they had kids, they paid the mortgage, etc. And they're like, well, they just had all this hypocrisy. So we have to go full scale into it. And kind of the edgelord is like, no, we have to. This failed not because we went too far, but because it fundamentally can't work. And so they're both kind of very much in the. If you look at the demographics, I think the demographics are often similar. People around our age, many of whom are facing a very bad economy and bad employment prospects, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think Sanders represents, right, the same way that the right has gravitated to Trump to be sort of the alt-right candidate, even though I don't think he's actually alt-right, and I am not shilling for, National Review or whatever. I'm just saying he's a demagogue. And I recognize that, and it's hardcore rhetoric. So I don't actually know if he believes half the shit that he says.
No,
I think he does.
I think he just would say anything to get elected.
Yeah, I do too. But he is. I think my spiel is, I'm not a diehard Trump fan, but I do think that he is the best that the alt-right could hope for currently in America. because he at least brought to the table the alt-right sort of ideas of race, of immigration. Like, let's talk about these issues seriously, and not just say. And isn't that kind of funny? Because the left in America has always been saying, well, let's have a discussion about race. Let's have a discussion about these issues. And Trump's the first guy on the right to actually say, yeah, let's discuss this. How about we build a wall? You know, I mean. So I do approve, and I do approve in that regard. But yes,
think people are
I
also
agree with you.
happy to have a politician who's not a pussy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the conversations can get started when you actually talk explicitly about race. Because if you like look at the Fox News and stuff, they always implicitly kind of, yeah, you know what they mean when they talk about like get the culture, and but they can't like say anything about the racial component or anything like that. And I think that kind of gets more kind of more problems between the races if you can't actually talk about it explicitly. And Trump seems to be pushing it in that direction a little bit, at least.
Yeah.
Now, Monsieur, we haven't let you talk. Would you like to kind of tell your story of how you kind of moved rightward?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm pretty young to start off with, so a lot of this happened while I was still kind of in school, just realizing it was kind of became politicized around the age of 14, 15. So
Right.
I was kind of one of these kind of basic soft socialist kind of people that everyone is in the UK.
Well, in Canada too.
Yeah, I think it's an Anglo thing.
Yep.
But as I just began to see, like, my family, they're from the Midlands. They moved down south before they had me. So when I used to go up to see when my grandparents were, it was around Leicester area. And I'm not sure if you know about Leicester, but it's incredibly diverse. And just the difference, you could feel it when you went into Leicester, when it was full of Indians and Pakistanis, and when you were down here in the south, where it's mostly still, you know, white people. Like, it's really a tangible difference. So I always kind of had that awareness of that factor.
Sorry, just one quick question. Do you notice like a big difference between, say, Hindus and Muslim Pakistanis in terms of like just how if they do like Hindus integrate any better or that kind of thing?
I'd say Hindus do integrate an awful lot better than Muslims do. With the Muslims, they're far more likely to ghettoize. Like,
Right.
You can tell, like, when you're in a Muslim neighborhood, and you can tell, like, when you're walking down the street, like, the Muslims are the ones who are giving you a dirty look. It's like the Hindus are far more civil and far more willing to integrate.
Now, Sikhs, I'm not even saying that we should let all the Sikhs stay or anything. I'm just saying they seem to be very, I don't know, just whatever country they go to, they seem to have a sense of, well, this is our country now, we have to serve it. Because I know in Canada and in Britain, they serve disproportionately high in the armed forces and police.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I've never actually met a Sikh, but from what I've seen about them, they seem to be one of the most modern minorities we actually have here in the UK. Like, they commit very low amounts of crime. They're often serving in, as you said, the police and the army. It's the same with the Gurkhas. Do you know about the Gurkhas?
Yeah, the Gurkha. My great uncle actually served with the Gurkhas during World War II.
Yeah. If you don't know about the Gurkhas, they're Nepalese. They come from Nepal, and it's become, when they got annexed by the British, they had incredible respect for the British Army. So it's become a tradition in some Nepalese villages that the eldest son of every family goes and joins the British Army and serves with them.
And they're excellent soldiers because they come from a strong warrior culture,
Yeah,
but
they train constantly in order to join the British Army.
they
Yeah,
also have a genetic advantage because of their high altitude. They have a lot more red blood cells.
I would just like to add about Sikhs that they're kind of they have this warrior saint thing in their religion. That the like the highest thing that you can strive for is to be like a warrior saint, like a great warrior, without like ego. So
That sounds very interesting.
yeah, that's kind of why they joined the armed forces and such, I think.
The Sikhs are the only people in Britain who are allowed to carry knives because it's part of their religious custom.
Yeah, here too, I think, and the Sami people, I think also. Actually.
How are the Sami? Do they like? I always got the. Do they like cause any? Are they good citizens or what are they like? I just don't know very much
Yeah,
about.
I can't say I know that much about them. There's some conflicts like where they have like reindeers that have this vast trains that they need to yeah.
I heard
And,
that.
and there's some conflicts about like the what did you say, the soil, the land,
Land rights?
because
Land rights?
it's like the Samis want like lots of land to have their reindeers be
Oh,
on,
okay,
and there's some conflicts with like ethnic Swedes and the Sami, and but I think we should have like kind of a great respect for the Sami since they're the native population, a native population in Sweden.
I heard that they get refunded by the government for every reindeer they lose. So annually, they actually lose more reindeer than there are in Sweden.
Wow.
I actually don't know anything about that. Yeah.
That's a funny statistic.
Okay, I guess just go back to your. Yeah, so you were in Chester, and you're surrounded by the
Leicester.
vibrancy. So,
Yeah, it was, whenever I went up to see my grandparents, we'd always travel up to Leicester. So it was very obvious the difference between the vibrant and diverse communities that was always drilled into us in school. Was it's a strength. It's a strength. Like literally, almost every school assembly we had, they'd mention how diversity was a strength, and it was really obvious that something was wrong whenever you went up there. It didn't feel right. No one felt safe. And it's been that way since the 1970s in Leicester, and it's been getting progressively worse throughout the whole of England. So just through being on the internet and researching this kind of stuff, I stumbled across the alt-right, and I started reading up on that, and that's how I ended up getting here, basically.
okay.
I think I can add something I didn't say earlier. Yeah, there's a big reason that I kind of, I also stumbled upon the alt-right, and that seemed to be the only place where there was an actual honest discussion about the problems in society. Yeah. Because
I
found Arini first again, and then through him I found Woes, and then everyone else.
That is the exact same pattern. I first stumbled upon Arini's Men of the West video.
Yeah.
And after that, I found Millennial Woes, and that evened me out.
Yeah.
What about Ramsey Paul?
Yeah, Ramsey.
I've never really watched Ramsey Paul. Is he good?
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's great.
He's good. My only issue with him is he kind of often does the same topic a lot. Yeah. I guess maybe if no one else has anything to say, maybe I'll talk about myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so my family is, I guess, kind of mainstream conservative, which in Canada means that you support multiculturalism, gay marriage, and abortion, but you don't support post-birth abortion, special taxes on white people, and Muslims having the right to cut people's heads off. So that's kind of what conservative.
The only difference to conservatives here is that they do think Muslims have the right to cut people's heads off here.
Well, they're shifting on that. Actually, there was a member of the conservative who's running for office, and he is a Sikh, and he wrote in a Punjabi newspaper. He was talking about gay marriage and heterosexual marriage, and he referred to heterosexual marriage as normal marriage. And they dug up the article, and he was forced to resign and apologize.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
But yeah, my grandfather was a big influence on me. He was kind of a real old school conservative. Like he really hated feminism. He really hated immigration because the city where he lived used to be 95% white, and now it's 80% Chinese in the span of less than 2 decades. And that's how fast demographics have changed here. So I don't know. I guess I was always. I guess for me it's just personality. Wise, I've always been really kind of moralistic and very kind of rationalistic, and those two kind of combined together. So I was kind of edgy as a kid, but as I got older, I kind of moved leftward, mainly because the right wasn't really conservative, if that makes sense. Like the right in Canada at least only talks about economic issues. They don't talk about social issues. So I think if they were more socially conservative, I would have liked them more. But I kind of just moved leftward. Kind of the first intelligent person I ever met who was kind of interested in this stuff was a communist new atheist I met in high school. And he had kind of been the first person who ever made real arguments for anything. So he kind of converted me to that way of thinking. I was raised in the most liberal church in Canada, the United Church, which is saying a lot, and I just hated it. And it made me really hate Christianity. Ironically, because I didn't think it was rigid enough. Because I just kind of hated the whole love everybody thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of just douchebags that need to get whacked.
Well, it seems like your whole left period was agreeing with liberal the wrong reasons.
Yeah, actually it was. Because when I was in university, what I actually was I thought I was a man of the left, because I was I took a lot of this stuff honestly. I actually always hated multiculturalism, because in high school the Packies would always be like, when we're the majority, we're going to cut your heads off. And they'd say shit like that, and they'll be like, we're coming over, we're invading your country, you're dead. And the Chinese people were they had no knowledge of anything. They knew about China, but even the ones who were born here, they didn't know what Rome was, they had no idea what Greece was, they didn't know who Caesar was, they didn't know who founded Canada. They didn't care. They were just here to make money and then go back to China.
They don't care about your history. They don't view it as their own, because they're not really your people.
Yeah, so I initially kind of had a non-racial view, and I just took the view that people who come here had to abandon all ties to their previous country and fully integrate and become patriotic citizens of the country they moved to. And in university, like I said, I kind of was an honest leftist who wasn't a pussy, so I actually kind of took a neo-colonialist perspective. I kind of, over time, the whole white guilt thing for me collapsed pretty quickly, because I remember in one of my classes on African politics, we learned about the Second Congo War, which was basically the largest post-World War II war in the world that no one's ever heard of. But basically, everyone in Africa just started macheteing and eating each other. That's not even a joke. There's some. I'll have to do a video on it. But there's a video we watched in class, and they were trying to talk about this in the context of patriarchy. As some Congolese soldiers going,
of course,
we drink the magic potion, and the key ingredient of the magic potion is that we have to rape women. Yeah. And the rape activates the magic potion that blocks bullets. And I was just like, what the fuck? And then I read about female genital mutilation and how it was like 98% in some countries. And just like that there was still slavery in Africa and just all these like horrific things. And like these people have no agency. We have to like reinvade these countries, put them under military occupation, and try to make them civilized human beings. And I kind of thought that that was a left-wing perspective because I wanted to do it under the guise of civilization and human rights. So I kind of had that perspective. So I would always get like into fights with people, obviously, in university, for more of kind of a. I thought it was a left-wing perspective, but I kind of considered it like kind of a more realistic perspective. But kind of in university, being through the classes, just people shilling for like female genital mutilation, people shilling for the Sudanese government and their like genocide in Darfur, people blaming. I remember there was one professor who blamed Britain for China's economic decline during the 17th century.
Oh, no doubt, yeah.
When it was colonized, when China was a colony of Britain, and I'm like, well, that didn't happen.
China, the colony of Britain.
And I'm like, these guys just have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Was he just talking about Hong Kong and thought that was the whole of China?
No, all of China.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You guys colonized all of it.
How can you be that clueless?
And then there was
China colony strong.
And then in my political actually the exact moment I knew I wasn't a leftist was in Political Science 201. This was not like global studies or critical studies. In Political Science 201, the teacher said aerodynamics is a conspiracy by the patriarchy to make things phallic shaped.
I knew it! Oh, God.
And I was like, this is the most fucking retarded thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm not a man of the left if this is what they stand for.
Yeah, I mentioned this in a call recently. My girlfriend, I went with her to a lecture and in ethnology, and the professor said that animals have kind of a nature, but the human beings are just a big question mark, and you can't. It's very dangerous with the biological explanations for human behavior, and therefore we shouldn't consider it at all.
Well, I always find it funny when they're like Richard Dawkins and the reductionist materialists. And they're like, yeah, everything is material. Evolution, biology explains everything. Does race exist? No. No, it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist.
Actually, I think Richard Dawkins does think that race exists. He has said something about primitive religion, studying those could be like interesting for a racial psychological perspective or something like that.
And they do there's something that they always do where they'll be like, oh yeah, humans are just animals, and then they use that to justify like, you know, hedonism and sort of faith. Just like being like horrible human beings with no manners, and like and then at the same time it'll also act like human beings are special because we to what you were saying, like, you know, we're humans can't be defined because humans are so complex, yet they'll try and reduce us down to being simple animals.
It's a form of moral relativism that they're trying to grapple with. At the same time, we're capable of these wonderful things, but we're just animals. But these amazing things. So, and it just goes back and forth, and then they can't tell you why those things are good. So it's all just, you know.
Yeah, but for me, actually, what really made me edgy, bizarrely enough, was when I converted to Catholicism, and I had I went to Los Angeles like on a vacation, and I kind of saw how blacks lived in America, and they basically live like animals. Like they're just sleeping in the streets. Everyone was like their teeth and just bodies were destroyed from drug abuse, etc. And it was absolutely horrific. And I'm like, this is after decades of massive, like, bankrupting the country with welfare spending and just all this effort. I'm like, well, I think what this means is they just need their own country. They're stuck living in someone else's dream. And I just saw it, and it's like, well, it's not good for diversity. Isn't good for anyone. It makes everybody angry, unhappy. It destroys society's solidarity. It's just not good. And I kind of came to reject it, ironically, from kind of becoming more Christian.
Interesting.
So I thought it was bad for humanity and bad for kind of, just people's quality of life.
Yeah, that's kind of my perspective too. Like from a universal morality, it's better for people to have their own societies.
Yeah, because people aren't happy. I mean, do people seem happy in like Britain with the diversity? I mean, do even the Muslims seem happy?
No, the Muslims want to take it, yeah.
So Tut just showed up. So Tut, would you like to talk next?
How about how I became
Or just
right-wing?
yeah.
So a little bit of background. I come from a very socialist, and when I say socialist, I don't mean nowadays new left ideal of socialism. I mean trade unionist, working class background. I started getting into politics when I was like in the middle, when I was a teenager. I think psychologically I kind of wanted to impress my parents by showing how left-wing I could be. But so I spent a good portion of my life as this sort of class war leftist. And as I went to university, expecting to be involved in this sort of, what I perceive to be socialism.
You mean like fighting for the working man?
That fighting for the working man, believing, looking after those who are hard done to in society by the fat cat bankers and all this stuff. I got into all that lark. But as I investigated into it and as I got involved in this, I started to notice that these people really do not care about working class people.
No, they don't give a shit.
They don't care about working class people. They don't care about class. They care about all these weird things, transgender pets.
Right.
They impose their ideology on little children.
I'd say that the white working class is probably some of the most hated groups by the new left.
No one hates
they
them.
are.
No, they're
But
They absolutely despise them.
didn't they at the time further back? Didn't they actually work for the white working class? When did this kind of cultural Marxism? When was that in the 60s that it kind of?
I'd say it kind of happened in Britain in the 70s.
Because I feel like the Social Democrats here were like thinking of the working class were the kind of working class party, and they didn't. And we were a homogeneous society until like we started to take in people from other countries in this.
Well, look at somebody like Tommy Robinson. Okay, well now, Tommy Robinson is a working class lad. His own cousin has been molested and groomed by an Islamic rape gang. Right? This guy is obviously affected by what's gone on in his community. He's obviously started out as somebody quite working class, and he is completely demonized by the left as being this horrible, hateful figure. The famous one in Britain is the guy who's obviously from a working class background. He's obviously been hard done to. He's obviously come from like a poor family. It was the guy that he said Muslimic ray guns, and this guy was completely demonized and paraded to be
completely made fun of.
What?
It's completely made fun of just for trying to make a point. And he said
he was completely made fun of because he was trying to make a point because his accent was a bit.
His
have you guys seen
that? Too poor.
Yeah, look at this pleb. Look at this pleb with his opinion.
It's completely elitist.
Yeah, they're the most elitist, like snobby people you can imagine.
Well, they don't have to live with the consequences of what they do. Like, they don't have to
Well,
live in these shitty neighborhoods and have Muslims groom their children.
look, just look, one more thing is look at how watching the Jeremy Kyle show to them is a source of entertainment because it's like watching a human zoo.
Yeah.
It's like they don't have any sort of for those that don't know, Jeremy Kyle is basically Britain's equivalent of Jerry Springer. But like the middle class will make a sport essentially of watching these plebs on Jeremy Kyle.
Oh yeah.
What?
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, no, that is completely true. The left is absolutely in the States. It's the same. They do not care. Yet you still will find lefties here in the United States that talk about, oh, I'm all for the downtrodden. But I think what the left did was they came to the conclusion that, well, if you're white or if you're male, you simply can't be part of the downtrodden. So then it said, well, if we can't support the low class whites, well, we can support the other downtrodden. You know, the gays, the minorities. They're the real downtrodden. That's who we're for.
Well, another thing, just to kind of bring an end to my story. Another thing was I just started to see how in Britain we have this journalist called Mehdi Hassan, right? He is you can guess what background he comes from. There's actually footage of this man in a mosque saying that non-Muslims live like animals, and saying all these vile things about like Christians and atheists and whatnot. He will then be allowed on TV to masquerade as this man of the common people, as the sort of he's a journalist. He works for Al Jazeera, but he used to work for the New Statesman, and he's allowed on TV despite saying these vile things about non-Muslims. Then he'll pretend that he never said them, or he'll pretend that he doesn't actually believe these things.
Despite the fact that there's footage and anyone can find it.
Despite it's not even like just recordings. It's his face. It's his voice. And he's acknowledged that he's actually said it. And
Wow.
But he'll go on TV and flat out deny it, and then people will shill for him and be like, "Oh no, he didn't mean it. You're taking it out of context." The video is about 5 minutes long.
How can saying non-Muslims live like animals be taken out of context?
Yeah.
Unless you're quoting someone, but I doubt he was quoting.
But what I'm saying is that they will just happily. Now this guy clearly isn't in line with the whole traditional lefty agenda. They don't care about class. They don't care about the working people. They don't care about. So that was something that really started to trigger me.
But how do you think the working class, like Labour voters in 1950s Britain, would react to Rotherham?
Oh, they wouldn't have stood for it.
I'm pretty sure
really
like,
wouldn't
their minds wouldn't have been able to comprehend what had happened. Like they'd just been like a complete shutdown.
And then the leadership would be like, no, we have to let them do this because of socialism, and they just like stare at him like he's like stupid or something.
Yeah.
No, but like a lot of the time, a lot of the people that are voting UKIP, and a lot of the people that are voting, a lot of the people that are involved in like the EDL, for example, and I'm not saying that these groups are perfect, but what I'm saying is that they're kind of right wing, and they're the bannermen of the working class.
Yeah, that happened in America where they called them the Reagan Democrats, who were like Italians and like kind of some other minorities who were socially conservative, but were kind of working class, so they tended to vote for the Democrats. But post kind of the hippie period, when the Democrats just became so anti-American and just such kind of dildos, they're like, well, we can't vote for these guys anymore. Reagan at least loves America, so let's vote for the Republicans. And yeah, they call them the Reagan Democrats, and the white working class has become kind of a pillar of the Republican Party, although the Republican establishment really hates them.
Yeah.
Well, like ever since I was a kid, like I've always liked I've always liked things like kings and castles and stuff like that, you know, history, fantasy books. And so I always really liked like ancient buildings and old architecture, and I've always liked things like pomp and circumstance, pageantry, nationalistic music. You know,
I agree.
and I always found these things to be interesting. But no, it's just the more I kind of at university seeing what they were pumping out and just reading on the internet about what people say about how they just want to destroy traditions and how they want to destroy all these beautiful things. And even though I was a lefty, like the vast majority of people that vote Labour are actually pro-monarchy, and they still like all the pomp and pageantry. You know, most people like that despite being left wing. But then you get people like Jeremy Corbyn, who is literally elected Labour leader, and you get people like Emily Thornberry that will just insult people for having England flags.
Is Jeremy Corbyn as radical as he appears to be?
I think he's actually more radical
He's had to
than
tone
he's
it
told.
down since he's become Labour leader.
Like
He's had
you
to
can see videos of
backtrack
him
about a lot of what he thinks.
You can see videos of him back in the 70s or 80s, and he's talking some like hardcore Marxist rhetoric.
Because he almost seems like a lunatic to me.
He seems like a geography teacher who wandered into the wrong meeting and somehow ended up being Labour leader.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no, the man is like a lot of people are saying, oh, how he's made Prime Minister's questions cordial. But he's made it fucking boring. It's the most boring thing. What he does right is because he's man of the people, he gets Labour Party members to email him, and then he selects the questions. And then the Prime Minister is in a position where he can't ridicule them for being stupid. Because if he does, then he's effectively ridiculing a question from the public.
Okay, to be fair, I don't think that's the worst. I mean, if he picks stupid questions, I don't think it's the worst thing to let people ask questions of their politicians. Maybe that's just freedom or something.
Oh no, I don't mind people asking questions to the politicians. That's not the problem. The problem is that he's deliberately done this to put the Prime Minister. Because David Cameron said one about him, he's pretty good at Prime Minister's questions, and he's done this partially out of his like hatred of the traditions of Parliament, but also out of just trying to put Cameron on a back foot.
Yeah, he's complete Republican scum, basically, Jeremy Corbyn.
Now, was Tony Blair a Republican?
I think so.
He was in some ways, but then he gets credited as saving the monarchy during the Diana crisis. So
he pretty much destroyed the House of Lords, though. He removed life
yeah.
peerages from the House of Lords.
Yeah.
I mean, he removed hereditary peers from the House of Lords. So let's say if your father's a lord, your son will no longer inherit your title.
Yeah, it sounds like the House of Lords has become the Canadian Senate. In Canada, we have a Senate, and it's even hard to describe. Basically, prime ministers just appoint senators for life, and they have legislative powers, but it's really just used as a way to give cronies a reward for support.
That's what they're using it for here now as well.
Now,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go
on. Go on, Argent.
Oh, just if anyone in the chat would like to come on and maybe tell their story. If not, we'll just keep talking. But I just figured I'd offer that. It was going to be kind of open mic.
Yeah, I just a question to everybody here. I think I didn't really. The left was so kind of irrational in many ways, and I don't mean kind of the left that wants like good working conditions and good wages for the working class, but like the left in the universities and stuff, that kind of pushes the society in one direction. Isn't the best way to understand it just like a destructive force that is just meant to destroy everything, everything Western? Because they support Islamists that want to kill gay people, and they and at the same time they support the LGBT community and stuff like that. And now they are pushing this like trans after they have like been using the gate, because they are only using all these groups. And they have been using the gays, and now they're like pushing the trans thing.
Because the one with gays far quicker than they expected to, I think. They were expecting it to go on for a lot longer, and now they're desperately searching for the new thing, which has turned out to be transsexuals, and they pretty much already won on that within a year or so.
But it's like it's starting to get ridiculous, and I think they like they can only go. They have to kind of continue to like push in this direction, and they have to go into like ridiculous territory where people don't want to follow, I think.
Well, they're entirely inconsistent, aren't they? I mean, you can't support both the GLBT and the Muslim that wants to destroy them. So
yeah, you can do that if you're against Western civilization and Western traditions. I think that's the point of it.
The only consistency they have is consistency in their anti-Western sentiment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Just going off of that whole thing, I think you raise a very good point about that they just destroy, they don't really create anything. Like, I think we really saw this with them pulling down all those statues, like these beautiful bronze statues, or just renaming places, and it doesn't add any value. It's just all they can do is just destroy. It's like if you look at modern art, it's just crap. It's like nothing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not even something like, if it's something like surrealism, that's like something different, but that's actually like something kind of interesting. Like it's something new, but it's interesting. They just will make like just throw paint at a canvas or something, call it art. And they're like, we have to get rid of the traditional stuff and replace it with just nothing.
Well, the Soviet Union, like, they were horrible and they were like, you know, evil and everything, but to their credit, like, at least they had like distinctive art styles, or at least they like built statues and they had like heroes and they invested in like architectural projects.
Yeah.
Like now it's just the left are just like, let's just build a big ugly glass building where this ancient place used to be.
Yeah.
Or like, have you seen what they've done in Germany, where they started rebuilding the palace of the King of Prussia, and they said, the leftists in Germany said, oh, this is triggering because it reminds us of our evil past. So they decided to build 3/4 of it accurately, and then just build a blank facade as the left wall.
Wow, that speaks to me. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I have a good example of something here in where I live. They were going to like cut down. I think it's Sweden's biggest or oldest apple tree to build something new, and the people started sitting there to like to not let them do that, and I think it's a good thing. Like, if you have the like Sweden's oldest apple tree there, why should we like replace it with something else? It's kind of a fun thing, cool thing to have, I think. And many people seems to have been sitting there and like to protest, and I think they have kind of they want to do it now.
It seems like people are always up to preserve things like, as you say, like an apple tree, but when it comes to preserving statues of historical figures, if they're ever so slightly could be interpreted as right wing, then they just want them taken down.
Yeah.
There's the whole debacle with Oxford at the moment, where the leftists at Oxford University, one of the greatest universities in the world, some of the most privileged people ever to live
on the planet,
on the planet,
leaders of the planet,
are going around complaining because they're being triggered by statues of Cecil Rhodes.
Did Cecil Rhodes donate a lot of money to Oxford?
I don't know. Or maybe he was just like a hero to the people at the time. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's a country named after him.
R.I.P.
An evil, racist country. So I have to do it like
country in South Africa.
Evil, racist. There he is.
Ah, there you go.
But yeah, like they're going around because they're triggered about like statues of Cecil Rhodes at Oxford University. And to Oxford University's credit, again, they've actually come out and said, "Listen, you're here to learn, not to cry."
Yeah.
Good.
Like we aren't you have the choice of living here. You didn't have to come here. You can go to another university if you want.
I think
Good.
one of them
That's what they should do.
I think one of them recommended want you go to a university in China.
Mm.
Something like that, which is actually pretty edgy.
Yeah, if you don't want to hear other people's opinions, go to university in China.
Was it at Harvard that they were coming up with new pronouns for people that were didn't consider themselves male or female? Like there was like he, she, and they had like C or something.
Z,
Yeah.
I.
Z, Zai,
Yeah. Zippity doo.
These eyes are some. I smell cis scum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of my favorite Mark Stein stories was and I think I forget it was Oxford or it was some school where they were going to have the Empire Ball, and it was going to be like everyone gets dressed up in like Victorian clothing, and they canceled it because of the connotations of the British Empire being associated with fascism and slavery.
Wait. Associating the British Empire with fascism.
And slavery.
Can you even into history, mate? Come on.
literally the force. that
Can you
stopped
even
fascism
history?
and slavery.
Yeah, just keep going. I gotta see if I can find that.
But we have a white guilt in Sweden too, and there's no basis for it here. We haven't had slavery.
There was like one Swedish-owned slave ship, and that's it.
Yeah, there was one island where some, with
Some
some
people
slave
who
ships
didn't
or
matter
something.
did slavery, yeah.
And what's his name? The black communist leader in the U.S.
Nelson Mandela? Oh,
In the U.S.
Martin Luther King.
No,
yeah.
living now.
Huey Newton, whatever his name was, the leader of the Black Panthers.
No. He's on television
Malcolm
and
X?
stuff. He's on television and stuff often.
Jesse Jackson?
It might have been him. There was some black community leader when he heard he got some question about Sweden, and he took up that thing about slavery and blah blah blah, and that we had some guilt and have to like make reparations more or less for that.
God.
The only
Just a
major
professional shit,
atrocity I
wasn't
can
he?
think of that Sweden committed was the deluge during the invasion of Poland. That's the only one that really comes to mind. But sorry.
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, just one of the kings of Sweden invaded Poland and like.
Yeah, long
large.
time ago.
No, I mean I'm just trying to think of. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Wasn't there something about sterilizing the Sami or something?
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
that was kind of race biology. That was kind of
Yeah, but they're the Sami, though.
Okay, sorry, if we could just take a side note, I found that Mark Stein article, so I'm just going to read from it. A leading college at Cambridge University has renamed its controversial colonial-themed Empire Ball after accusations that it was distasteful. The $136 pound a head Emmanuel College Ball was advertised as a celebration of the Victorian Commonwealth and all of its decadence. Students were urged to party like it's 1899, and organizers promised a trip through the Indian Raj. Let's see here. Australia and the West Indies and 19th century Hong Kong. But anti-fascist groups said the theme was distasteful and insensitive because of the British Empire's historical association with slavery, repression, and exploitation.
God.
Of course.
This is why we need to bring back Empire Day.
Yes.
So, P.S. Okay, this is Mark Stein's comment. It's interesting the term anti-fasc includes attacking the British Empire, which stood alone against fascism. I mean, regardless of your feelings on fascism, it's bizarre.
It's just they're completely historically illiterate.
Oh,
Yeah,
Antifa, you mean those guys that dress in black and silence political opponents?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah,
Literally.
and when the Sweden Democrats got into the parliament here, they said that some leader for I don't know if it was the Social Democrats or the moderates said that we had the first time we had a neo-fascist party in the Swedish parliament.
Of course.
The Sweden Democrats, and they're only like they're totally blocked out by the other parties. They refuse to like talk to them at all.
Didn't the
and-
center
and-
right allow themselves to lose power rather than
Yeah,
negotiate?
I can actually explain that is because the government is now the Social Democrats and the Green Party, and they're also supported by the left party, the most left-wing party, but they are not in the government. They just support them in parliament. And when they had to come with the budget, if all of the opposition parties, because they were in the minority, the government, we have a minority government, so the opposition, except for the Sweden Democrats, chose to not vote against the budget of the Social Democrats and the Greens, so that the Sweden Democrats wouldn't get any influence in the politics. But they actually are beginning to change. Yeah, things are beginning to change, and there's kind of Christian Democrats and moderate party seems to go more towards less immigration now, and maybe they will vote against the next budget that the Social Democrats and Greens propose, and that would kind of lead to a new election. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Swedish Democrats are actually in some polls are leading the Social Democrats now.
Yeah. It was kind of fantastic that they got like over 12% of the vote last time. It went up like from what did they have 4 or 5 the previous election.
Okay, the most left-wing party in Sweden is called the Feminist Initiative.
Oh yeah, they didn't like make it into the parliament though. God, they are. They are
Ideology,
so,
feminism, radical feminism, anti-racism.
yeah, there was actually in the beginning when they started that party, there was some like more classical liberal feminists like that want to see people as individuals, but they kind of left the party because of all the left-wing nutters that are there. And they have one representative actually in the EU Parliament. I think she's a gypsy or something. That is, and she married away her daughter when she was 16 or something. Because it's so ridiculous.
Very feminist, arranged marriages.
Initiative.
Sorry, what did you say? She married her daughter?
She married her away with some man, like because in the gypsy culture, that's what you do. And now she's the representative for the feminist initiative in the EU Parliament. But if you're like a member, you can do no wrong, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, but they are totally crazy. The one of the founders was the leader of the left-wing party earlier, and she proposed tax on men because of their violence against women or something, or because women are discriminated and have lower wages. So she wanted to have a man tax. Yeah, but everybody thought that was like idiotic. But I've actually heard some ridiculous rumors about Sweden too. Like that, like in a Ramsey Paul video, he said that he had heard that Swedish men couldn't stand up and take a leak. They had to sit down. And that's not true.
It will be true next year.
It's coming. You know it's coming.
Yeah.
Sweden, yes.
When there's a feminist initiative green coalition government.
Yeah, I don't know if the feminist initiative will be in the parliament ever. I really hope they aren't. In Stockholm, they actually get over 7% of the vote. But
Oh,
Well,
It's
you know
it's
how
gonna end up being like a feminist initiative and then like a Sharia party and like a coalition.
yeah.
well, you know how they impose that rule. They will just make it mandatory that all businesses and all businesses have to lower the ceilings on their buildings so that you have to sit down to go to the toilet.
I see.
the sad thing is, I can almost see that happening.
Yeah, them building like roofs on
No,
toilet cubicles.
no, 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 no. A feminist Sharia government.
Feminist, Sharia, GLBT. You know, it's all. It just shows how much they just want to watch the world burn. You know,
Oh,
just like
Douglas Murray spoke about this. He was talking about once he saw a gaze for Palestine, a gaze for Hamas.
No, queer.
Yes, no.
Hamas.
those are the
He said
best. Yeah.
If gays for Palestine were actually in Palestine, they'd have to move to Israel.
They'll be thrown off rooftops.
Right.
I like how they did it in Afghanistan, where they would dig a hole, put them in it, then they'd build a wall, and then they'd push the wall over on them. Which I guess is kind of like a form of Keynesian stimulus, given how crappy Afghanistan's economy was. It's like the only job you can do.
Employ people to build execution walls.
Like, it's literally like, oh man, Afghanistan.
Like, that was the best method of execution they could come up with. Just push a wall over onto them.
Yeah, and another thing that's so funny about the Muslims, when you ask them, what do you think should happen to apostates? And they kind of always say like, that's not relevant to this society. It's like only in a Muslim society that we're going to impose those rules. But they are trying to impose a Muslim rule in our country. So.
Have you been reading about like the cultural sensitivity education classes that they've had to be giving in Finland to the migrants?
Yeah, they had to learn like to not rape people and stuff.
Yeah, there's a line in the BBC's articles about it.
I heard that it was in Norway, but maybe Finland too.
Well, I don't know because you're closer to it than me, but wherever it was in the article. It was saying the lecturer says that you cannot buy a woman here because they are equal. After the translation, the man with wide-eyed shock responded negatively.
You can't literally buy women.
Monad, isn't Finland fairly conservative?
Yeah, they have had a much better immigration policy than we have had. I think there's some pressure on them now to take in more refugees. But I know there were some refugees like in the north of Finland, and they kind of didn't think it was good enough, so they want to go back to Sweden, I think.
Aren't they keeping them in a? This might be Sweden. They're keeping them in a ski resort.
Wow.
But yeah,
they're giving them like I think it might be Finland or Sweden, which is one that's famous for spas. Is that Finland?
Yeah, they do things like that. They have some like some place where people used to do sports and stuff inside.
Yeah.
The school had like what's the name for it?
Gymnasium?
Yeah, where you have exercise and
Yeah, the
like
gym.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
and
like,
now they can't have that because they have made it a place for immigrants to live.
yeah, they're willingly sacrificing like their economy. They're sacrificing the tourist industry
But
by putting these people in essentially 5-star ski resorts. Like, did you see in the with Open Gates video they were putting migrants in a Swiss castle?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I guess
they're
I
all
guess they
trapped in a
complained about it.
castle.
What was that? Sorry?
I guess they complained about it. That is what horrible living
Well,
conditions
the
in the
one I
castle.
thought was funny was when they refused to eat the food the Italians gave them, claiming it was bland.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
they're getting so tired of their pasta. They're delicious Italian meals. Just
Yeah, like I mean, clearly these guys are just desperate people who just want a new home.
right.
or have you seen the video of the woman in France that goes and gives, like, she goes out of her way to import halal ravioli to give to the migrants in Calais, and
Halal
and then like,
ravioli.
and then she goes into the migrant camps and they refuse to eat it because they read the dates wrong and think it's out of date, and then they empty the ravioli out all over the floor because they think
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Do you know what they did more in Italy as a protest to the food?
Well,
They cut holes in the tires of the people that work there on their cars.
Such a
constantly-
sociopathic thing to do.
I know.
They're constantly rioting as well. Like in the jungle migrant camp in Calais, all the different groups of migrants are constantly at odds with each other. Like the Africans are fighting the Syrians, who are fighting the
Yeah,
Assyrians, who are
there
fighting
was
everybody.
like yesterday. I think there was two migrants that was fighting in some center where they placed them.
they burnt it down. They burnt the entire jungle
Yeah.
down. Like,
They actually, there have been a lot of people setting fires to places where they were planning to put migrants. So it's a sign of the discontent in Sweden. But a third of the place, this was empty places. So the migrants weren't there yet. I think like 30 places or something, and or 40. But like a third of the places where they had migrants were set on fire by the migrants themselves.
What, just through incompetence, or it's like a protest?
I think it was incompetence most.
Well, what I thought was actually what was kind of more sad than anything was it's common on the boats that go across the Mediterranean for the Muslims to throw the Christian refugees overboard,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and
Oh, that's
it's
nice.
like the religion of peace strikes again. Literally, the first thing you do as you're approaching the continent is to like watch someone drown, like
Mm.
Right.
like the people
You guys heard about the Greek frogmen who've basically been sailing out to the Mediterranean, finding these refugee boats, taking the engine out, and then sailing away.
There was another thing here in Sweden. There was like a bus of migrants that were unhappy with the place they had to they wanted to go to another city or something. So they sat in the bus and refused to go out because they were discontent.
Such childish
you hear
thing
about
to
that
do.
German guy that sent the busloads, like those Germans that sent busloads of migrants to Angela Merkel's house?
That's awesome.
They should
live there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, Angela Merkel.
Just selling her people out, just entirely.